Tur and Jabal, and they're both used in the Qur'an to mean mountain. We also have another word, Tawd, which also means a mountain, but it actually means a great high-rising mountain. So a big mountain, like for example Mount Everest. Now let's talk about At-Tur and Jabal. So At-Tur actually, it's a specific word, and it's actually used less in the Quran than Jabal. Jabal is used extensively in the Quran. You'll notice actually, Tur, it's used specifically in the story of Musa alayhi salam and the children of Israel. And on top of this, so actually if you go to the Hebrew language, the Aramaic, you'll see that Tur is used for mountain, which is the language of Bani Israel. It's similar to, if you remember, the difference between the words, if you remember, Bahar and Yem, where Yem was used specifically in the story of Bani Israel. Now on the other hand, Jabal, it comes from a root to mean big in size, to be strong, rough, fixed, unmovable. So the characteristics of a mountain. Now let's look at two examples of this in the Quran of Jabal being used. First one is, and this is a very commonly recited verse, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. If we had sent down this Quran upon a mountain, you would have seen it humbled and coming apart from the fear of Allah. And similarly, we have وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ, and when the mountains are removed. This is talking about the Day of Judgment. So if you remember, the Jabal is something that's strong, is unmovable, unshakable. But in these two verses, although they're very strong, but if the Quran was revealed upon it, it would just crumble and come apart. And on the Day of Judgment, despite their strength, they will be removed and torn away. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually dissect the Ism Ishara. So to do this, we're going to be looking at three parts of the Ism Ishara. And these parts are, number one, Ha'u Tanbih. The second is Lam al-Bu'd. And the third aspect of this Ishara is the second person pronoun associated with it. So we're going to look at these three aspects, starting off with the Ha'u Tanbih, and then the Lam al-Bu'd, and then the second person pronoun. So let's start. So Ha'u Tanbih. So Ha here is the Ha as well as the Alif together, not as in the Harf Ha. The Harf Ha, when it's written, is written as with a Hamza there, Ha. Ha is the name for the letter Ha. So here it's actually the Ha and the Alif, and it's called Ha'u Tanbih, the Ha of drawing attention. Now it's a particle that is placed before the Ismul Ishara. So the Ha'u Tanbih will always be in front of the Ismul Ishara. So if you actually look at the Ismul Ishara, Hada, Ha is Ha'u Tanbih, and then we have Tha. Tha is the Ismul Ishara. So the Ha will come before, and we have Ha'ula'i, Hadhihi. So the Ha will always come in the front, and this is a particle, and it's not actually considered Ismul Ishara, but it's connected to the Ismul Ishara. One other point to note is that when it's actually written in the Ismul Ishara, for example, if we say Hada, for example, just take Hada, it will be written as just a Ha without the Alif. The Alif will be represented like that. Even in normal writing outside of the Quran, it's actually written as the same way, a Ha without the Alif. Now the Ha'u Tanbih is used when the indicated is in close proximity, either physically or otherwise. We have this person here, person A, we call him, who is speaking, and he's actually using Ha'u Tanbih. He wants to point to this car. He wants to speak to this person here and point to this car. It's close to him, so we use Hadihi because this is feminine. So what the Ha does is it makes person B look in the direction of person A. So he's got B's attention. So here, as he turns, he points to the car. So the pointing will be done with this part here. And to draw the attention of this person B, he uses this harf here, ha. So here, the particle causes the listener to turn around to the speaker to see what the speaker is pointing to. So when a noun is associated to the musnad ilayhi, it says al-ismu yafidu thubut, which means the noun has the meaning of permanency. So like a permanent state. And also we'll find out later on in this lesson as well that it also has more emphasis than the verb. And the verb, on the other hand, it says here al-fi'lu yafidu tajaddud wal-huduth. So in other words, the verb has the meaning of repetition and an action, meaning a starting point and an ending. And this can occur either in the past, the present, or the future. Now, for example, the act of sleeping or eating. These acts obviously have a start point and end point, and they are repeated every day. While the noun, for example, we can talk about permanent states. For example, somebody being short or tall. Now let's take an example to demonstrate this more clearly. So we have these two sentences, Zaydun yajtahidu and Zaydun mujtahidun. So in both cases, the musnad ilayhi is Zaydun, in both cases. And that is the subject matter. So they're both the mubtada. Now the first sentence is translated as Zayd is exerting effort. So yajtahidu means to exert effort, to put effort in something. While Zaydun mujtahidun, we're using the ism fa'il, means Zayd exerts effort in all matters. In other words, it's a state. He's always exerting himself and trying his best in all matters in his life. Now, with the first sentence, Zaydun yajtahidu, it's talking about an act with a beginning and end. That repeats itself, but it's not a constant state. So for example, we could say Zaydun yajtahidu So Zaydun yajtahidu fi dirasa. So in other words, Zaydun is exerting effort in his studies. Now Zayd here is exerting effort in his studies, although there could be other areas in his life where he's not. So it wasn't appropriate to use the ism in this case. So this is actually talking about Ashabul Kahf, reasons, the companions of the musnad in front. And we spoke about two in particular last week. The first one of these is restriction, which in Arabic is al-ikhtisas wal-hasr. And we spoke about that in quite some detail. Another reason for bringing the musnad in front of the musnad ilay is to remove doubt. So if you remember in the last lesson, we mentioned the statement Zaydun kaslan, the mubtada and the khabar. If somebody thought this, but it was wrong information, then when one actually mentions what is correct, they would put the musnad in front. So mujtahidun Zaydun, because there was doubt in the musnad. The person thought it was this, but in actual fact it was this. So it's brought in front for importance. Now one thing to note about this is the doubt here is with the musnad. Now let's say that the object of doubt is Zayd. In other words, if we said Zaydun kaslan, and the actual fact is that it was Khalid that was kaslan, then how would we respond to remove that doubt? Would we say kaslanu Khalid? No, we wouldn't. Because the doubt is not with the musnad. Somebody's kaslan, but the doubt is who it is. So by saying Khalidun kaslanu, this will be the response. But to add extra emphasis to it, then you will probably need a particle of emphasis with it. For example, in. Inshallah, we'll speak about this particle later on. They are the two reasons we spoke about last week. And we're going to speak